Peterbot and Pollo just completed the most dominant stretch of competitive Fortnite we've ever seen in any chapter. And in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down in depth how they won one of their games in their most recent FNCS Global Championship win. After day number 1 of competition, Peterbot and Pollo had a very comfortable 147 point lead on second place. However, on day number 2, after getting a 28th place with 1 elimination, that followed with a 36th place with no eliminations, they actually ended up relinquishing the lead to Queasy and Thomas HD. So I'm going to be breaking down game number 9 where they turned things around, and after this they never relinquished the lead. Peterbot and Pollo are landing at the new drop, the Raft, for this season, and unlike in other seasons, they are contested by 2 teams at this drop. They are contested by Trashy and Threats and Swizzy and Yapko. They decide to land on the east side towers, and both immediately when they land look to get free tags on the other teams dropping with them. In this particular match, Peterbot gets a couple tags with his dual wield SMGs, and after that both him and Pollo drop down to lower layers to grab loot, with Peterbot grabbing a Doom chest and Pollo who already grabbed a Doom chest on land. They immediately then head over to the boss, and after a minute they have already claimed the boss, and Peterbot smartly here also makes sure to block off any angles for the boss because the other teams there actually do try to third party. Peterbot smartly also ends up taking the time to eliminate the NPCs, and that is because he wants to have enough AR ammunition for storm tags later. Peterbot and Pollo are now going to split a little bit here as Peterbot heads over to the east side of the map to farm brick where the water is and by the launch pad, and Pollo heads to the south to grab more loot and also look for tags on Trashy and Threats. Once Peterbot has farmed all of the brick, he takes the launch pad that is there to immediately head over to Pollo to help look for tags onto Trashy and Threats, and right as the zone is about to close, they decide to head out and rotate towards the forecast tower. Zone 2 has now just started, and they want to play towards Forecast Tower. Peterbot immediately goes to the Launchpad hill and sees that the opponent GRAS is on the other hill by that Launchpad, and they decide to end up trading tags as they wait for Forecast to pop. While Pollo waits for Forecast to pop, he ends up looking to the west to third party those teams and try to get tags. Eventually, once the Forecast ends up popping, they end up easily getting it without being contested, and Pollo makes sure to throw his bigs ahead so they can aggregate hills later on for Storm Surge. As that happens, Pollo is then going to go into the storm on this hill and look to third party Cheeps Chris and KK and Kcharo as the zone comes in. Peter also, as the zone comes in, throws bigs forward just like Pollo did, and now GRAS and Chari are actually getting W keyed by Damo and Resigns, so this gives Peter a significant amount of targets to choose from so he can easily get Storm Surge tags with the Mythic AUG. Zone number 3 has now finally arrived, and Peterbot and Pollo are going to claim the bunker just by the Forecast Tower for free. Peterbot and Pollo are going to also have some fantastic RNG as they both end up getting gold gatekeepers. Peterbot is going to put a scope onto Pollo's mythic pistol, so it makes it so much easier for him to get tags for Storm Surge. They both obviously are also going to get extended mags on their gatekeepers and farm the rest of the metal that is in that bunker. They also make sure to leave heals here in the vault just in case a little bit later on they take damage and just want to return to get some free and easy heals. In zone number 4, Peterbot is going to stay on an elevated hill and look for tags with his mythic AUG for teams all around him. Pollo is going to go on a lower elevation layer and he's going to be more west. Peterbot eventually is going to then, after not really getting a significant amount of tags, head over to Pollo, who sees that it is much easier to farm tags onto Kovacs and Huddy. This strategy ends up being incredibly successful as Storm Surge pops and they are 303 above Surge. After this, they're both going to rotate right to the Storm's edge by the River of Styx and grab dashes before the next zone pops. In zone number 5, unfortunately they get a far pool, but they are still looking to get Storm Surge tags. They unfortunately are unsuccessful when they try to get tags onto Sky and Scroll and Huddy and Kovacs. With 10 seconds before the zone fully pulls, they decide to rotate out using the dashes along the coastline. In the middle of the rotation though, Pollo ends up eating a significant amount of damage, but smartly pauses before his shield gets cracked to avoid getting W keyed. Eventually, Peterbot is going to establish them right on the edge of shore by the dashes. They're going to get a significant amount of Storm Surge damage onto walks here by just simply waiting for them to rotate into them. And right before getting in, they're going to use their dash to get right on the storm's edge and then wait for the next zone to pull. In zone 6, they unfortunately also have another long pull to zone, and this time they're going to rotate significantly earlier. Instead of using their dashes though, they're simply both going to pop Flowberry Fizz and go. Peterbot is going to lead this rotation and eventually get to the Nitro Ring, but he smartly pauses here, waiting for his teammate to catch up, and then they take it. He's going to get a little bit of chip damage onto Batman Booga, who takes the pad, but they're going to sit here and wait and box up right by this pad so they can use it later. They are now, once again, only really a little bit above Surge, but they get a significant amount of tags onto Andalex and Sato, who are behind them, and then they're going to use the Flowberry Fizz to take the pad. Smartly, while flying in the sky, you can see here that they mark exactly where they want to land, and Peterbot gets them established, and then this allows them to easily farm Storm Surge on all the opponents that are padding behind them, and they get a significant amount of damage done onto Andalex and Sato for Surge. Zone number 7, they're a lot more aggressive in their rotation, and as the zone pops, they immediately pop Flowberry Fizz and head towards the next zone. Once they see Chapentini in front of them, they end up shooting them and get them to box up. They then invest a dash to fly over the river and also box up immediately as they eat a little bit of damage. Once they do that, they end up farming Chap for a little bit of Surge here, and they use their forecast tower to make the next zone pull super short. Unfortunately, on their rotation, Pollo ends up getting beamed, but smartly uses a armored wall here to stop pressure and heal back up. This time, they're going to once again invest another dash with Fizz to get incredibly deep into zone. Peterbot is going to beam Flixie, and that is going to stop their advance. With the amount of control of space that they have, both Peterbot and Pollo in this deep of the game are actually going to end up just refarming things around them on dead side, since they control all of that space and know where the next zone is going to go. Once the 8th zone ends up hitting, Peterbot is going to get a bunch of free tags onto opponents who have to rotate directly into him. This also allows them to easily claim frontside low, and in the middle of this entire zone, they try to get some refreshes, but unfortunately, they really are unsuccessful, as Pollo ends up eating a little bit of damage from clicks, and he ends up stopping that pressure with an armored wall. As zone number 9 starts, they're going to get a couple of refreshes. Clicks, who had just ended up doing some damage to him, gets caught in a very nice pinch as Peterbot hits him on the flank, and Pollo ends up opening a 3-tile, picking up this elimination. They are now in a fantastic position since they know where the next zone is going to pull with the forecast tower. They end up using the scan coin, and they realize that Epic Whale and his teammate Muzz are on the backside. They use this information to essentially double pump him, and Peterbot is eventually going to pick up this elimination as Pollo ends up picking up all the materials and loot. However, this elimination has stuck them on backside, but they quickly fizz on the low ground here and then use their last dash to essentially go from the backside all the way to front side, and they claim a ton of free space. They're going to once again use the scan coin to realize that an opponent is simply just one layer above them. In the 10th zone, the information from the scan coin is going to pay off as Peterbot and Pollo end up dropping Vidil, who's one layer above them, and get a much needed impact and refresh. They're going to then drop the scan coin before rotation, and they're going to pop a Flowberry Fizz. Peterbot is going to make an incredible play as a fragger, but he's going to cut off all the teams on low ground here, even taking 30 storm damage to do so. When he does, he immediately starts to pressure all the teams on that layer. With that tarp that he established, Pollo, who's in the back of the tarp, is then going to edit a cone and get a free elimination onto Nathan on the low ground, which gives them another refresh, but more importantly, this allows them to completely own their low ground. They once again drop the coin so they can speed up the time in between the scans, and they are going to then use all of their refreshes that they got on this rotation to continue to claim all of the low ground. Zone 11 is here, and Peterbot starts off by taking some damage on the low ground, but he ends up double fizzing with Pollo, and they end up breaking through this old building at Reckless. Peter is going to then pressure Chapantini on the same layer, while Pollo quickly claims space on front side. Pollo then uses that space to look backside and ends up getting an easy elimination onto Vico, but unfortunately he's going to make a mistake here. As he goes for the loot, he doesn't secure his left side, and as Agers runs directly in front of him, he ends up getting pressured from Chapantini and unfortunately ends up going down. Peter, who was one layer below, is going to smartly drop down all the loot and get some refreshes at least as a solo. He realizes in the middle of this rotation that he's going to quickly get suffocated, so he smartly elevates one layer and then places a ramp behind him, and this, as he edits it, gives him the information that Teeny is there before the next zone pops. He ends up getting some pressure on his head, but he also just quickly stops it here by smartly placing an armored wall. It is now the 12th in the final zone, and that information he got from the backwards ramp is going to be crucial. He sees that Teeny is stuck on the backside, and eventually he's just going to pick him off with a nice 3-tile edit and get a minimum material refresh. After this, he ends up dropping down to a very clean layer on the ultimate low ground, and then smartly placing 2 armored walls to protect his head from anyone on height. An opponent jumps directly on his box, and this is an easy elimination as that opponent was incredibly weak and queasy, and he gets another minimum material refresh. Now, he makes a very risky play here, jumping ahead without protecting his head, but this ends up working out as an opponent in Trulex, who had been a knocked body, just happens to fall right next to him, and he's able to pick up this refresh, which is huge because it gives him 150 additional mats, and it also gives him a Flowberry Fizz. He once again uses those additional mats to claim space ahead, but he starts to pop a fizz but immediately stops when he sees he can get another elimination. He ends up hitting Chicho for a little bit of damage, but Batman Booga jumps on Chicho's head and picks up this elimination. This also ends up working out though, as Peterbot simply just edits a nice 4-tile edit, hits 2 shots, and then gets 2 bodies worth of eliminations. He picks up what materials he can, smartly making sure to place a wall to stop any pressure, and then he elevates one layer. He now sees an opponent down below him and pars, and he makes a very nice 3-tile edit on the very weak pars. He once again claims those materials, and he has to know that he is at a significant material advantage. This caused him to play very aggressive onto Dukes. He pops some fizz here, first covering his head, but with his side jump, he ends up eating a significant amount of damage. But now that he has a height advantage on the opponent, he hits a very nice jump shot, hitting the opponent for 53 and cracking his shield, and smartly, instead of just dropping down on the opponent, he tanks Storm and plays his height advantage, hitting the opponent once and then solo clutching this very nice victory royale. And after this, Peterbot and Pollo never ever gave up their lead en route to their 3rd FNCS in a row and the FNCS Global Championship. Well guys, that is going to do it for today's VOD review. I hope that you guys did enjoy. If you did, please drop a like on this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on post notifications. And I hope I'll be seeing you in the next one. Peace.